thanks for joining me for another makeup tutorial. I hope you like it. This one is more theatrical, kind of crazy, a bit all over the map. As you will see, I started with mostly just the colors and stuff, and then I was like, tears? Japanese clouds? Sure, why not? Anyways, comments, questions are welcome below. The link to my Facebook page will also be in the description below, along with some other details. Yeah, stay tuned because there are more videos to come, and I really hope you enjoy. Let's get started. So, I grab a deep purple from Kryolan's Aquacolor, and I start tracing out all the shapes of the contours of the face for the alien. So here I'm drawing out the jawline and the cheekbones, trying to get those as symmetrical as possible, but you don't have to worry about it being too clean because this is just the base for your design. You're going to be painting it in and cleaning it up a little later on. Again, right now we're just painting in the rough shape of the lips and everything else, so don't worry about getting it perfect. And now I'm starting to place my color. I'm not worrying too much about how even it is right now. I'm going to be able to go back in and tweak it once it's dried a little later anyways. So now I'm just doing the highlight, placing it where I want the high points of the face to be. Now that the white has dried, I'm going over it again with a second layer. With some yellow from the Mehron Prisma palette, I'm going right up close against those purple lines, and this will become my mid color. So wherever you want that contour, you're going from white your highlight, mid-tone yellow, to purple being the deepest shade that you're using. With the yellow still being wet, I grabbed my previous white brush, which is dry, and blending the two together. Then I use my white highlight and I sweep that right up to the temple where that yellow line goes, and I blend them. Next, I shade my nasolabial folds with just a hint of yellow, and I bounce between the white and the yellow to make them fade. Some more white to make it brighter. Then I clean up my purple line, and when the purple is still wet, I flick it inward, and I grab my white brush that doesn't really have anything on it, and I just buff them together. Then I follow on by doing the same thing around my crease and on my nose. With just a hint of yellow on my brush, I just buff both sides of my nose, creating sort of a mid shade between the purple and the yellow. And this is where I'm starting to shape the nose and contour and buffing, and oh, that's the shape that I want. So then I just trace it again, fade it again, and just sort of bouncing back and forth. Deepen the dip right above my cupid's bow, use my white brush to buff it, define around the nostrils with purple, then blend that out with the dry brush, my white dry brush, not adding extra pigment, just blending it out. Then I define the cheekbones a little more with purple, and then I bounce back to my yellow brush, which is dry, and I blend that upward. Then same principle, add some purple, then switch to my white brush to blend it inward. Because the Kryolan pigment has a bit of a creamy consistency, I'm able to buff it out into the yellow with just a dry white brush. Then I'm going to be adding some white to clean it up a bit so that it's not as muddy looking. lightly define the cleft chin again. Then I add some purple to the jaw, and I go in with my dry white brush and I blend that upward. Everything I'm doing at this point, I repeat the exact same thing on the other half of my face. Yeah, let's draw in some Japanese clouds, just using some light turquoise, just getting the shapes down mostly. We're going to be blending these out later with a bit of white, just painting in the squiggles. While the turquoise is still fresh, I use my dry white brush and blend it into the white, just going over all of the lines and buffing them in. Then with a small pointed brush, I start drawing in the cloudy squiggles with just white, and those sort of fade over the turquoise, so I'm going to be going over them a few times. I add a bit more shading with some purple left over on my brush, and then I start to cut the crease with the purple again, just creating sort of a large cat eye shape, and I'll be blending that up later on. Clean my mistake with some yellow. Then I feather that purple upward, and then I grab some orange for the outer corner of my eye, fading that inward, using my white brush to buff them together. I paint in my lips with some light orange. I'm not worrying too much about the edges because we're going to define them later with darker colors. Like here, a darker orange to do the bottom lip, fading that inward. Then using a dark purple, the same one we used before, to paint the outside of the top lip. And then I'm going to be blending the purple in with the orange using that dark orange. I use a fine brush with some white to give myself a highlight around my lips on the top and on the outer corners, blending the outer corners down. Then I'll paint in my cleft chin even more, applying the color, dabbing some pigment off of my brush, then feathering it out. A teensy bit of highlight right underneath. Fire it is time! I start to paint in with a lip brush some orange tears, and then I'll be grabbing some red and I'll be making sort of an ombre effect. Once you paint the red in, I grab a darker orange and I blend the two together. Sorry for the singing. Then I add some white under my eyeballs and we commence the eyeliner process, flicking it in the corner of the eye, flicking it out the corner of the eye, and connecting the two lines together. Keep defining with some black and I fade that into the purple. I do the same right on the jaw. I use some purple to feather it in, adding a thin white line of highlight under the contour of the cheek. Then I'm going to deepen that contour of the cheek with some more black. Then I start freehanding some Japanese style clouds using some black aquarelle by Makeup Forever. I'm not too concerned with the symmetry of these clouds. They're clouds, for crying out loud. Then I apply a teensy bit of black right along the crease and I use my purple brush to buff that outward. And that little mistake I just did earlier, I'm going to use some orange to clean it up. That's it, I'm calling it. This one's done. I am aching. I don't know what to call this one. Anyways, you decide. I'll just post it up as cool, fantasy, colorful, something. Hope you like the video. And subscribe to keep seeing some cool stuff. Yeah.